Hello, I am Professor Eric Martin, and I think I've got my system back up and operational. I've actually made this video once before and it disappeared into the ether. And today, as I sit down to make it, they've decided to mow the lawn outside my office door. I'm just going to march forward. I hope the sound quality's okay. This is just sort of a temporary thing anyway. My apologies for disappearing for a little while over the weekend. My computer was having issues. I think it's all resolved. I stated in an announcement that I sent out yesterday that I just finished grading last week's discussions. So I wanted to just kind of mostly recover stuff I already said in the announcements. If your last name began with the letters A through question mark, you got a grade on a 100-point scale. And I didn't give you a lot of feedback on your grades just because of as much time that it took for me to get to them. But the main thing that everybody can do to improve your grades from this point forward is more direct discussion of the documents from Worlds of History. Discussing those videos is easy. We need to discuss those documents from Worlds of History, and I got a little bit more to say about that in just a few minutes. If your last name is in the second half of the alphabet, the question mark through Z's, then last week you received a 10-point grade. I treated it as extra credit. However, in the grade book, it'll say something like 8 out of 100. So ignore the out of 100 business. Ignore Blackboard's auto grade calculator. Ignore the point totals. It's going to mess it up. All right, so just kind of keep that in mind. Blackboard doesn't really know how to handle dividing half the class up this way, and I haven't figured out how to short circuit the system in some ways. Now, content-wise, I'm talking about last week, not the current discussion we got going on right now. Content-wise, I'm pretty happy with what y'all did. I hope to come up with a second video that is maybe something I can use for the future in terms of addressing the content. But the main thing is that last week's discussion, the main format of the discussion, we view the materials, we read the materials, and y'all discuss the materials. And I didn't come in and do a lot of interjection. I really didn't come in and do any interjection because I thought you were covering the main issues. And this is one of the tricks with the online class. In my face-to-face classes, there's a dynamic discussion going on, and I can kind of intervene when necessary. And I'm trying to create that in our discussion boards. It's a little bit harder, and I don't want to respond to each and every discussion post. I want to give you guys a chance to talk about things. Now, a couple of things that came up that I was pretty happy to see is many of you understood that the main topic that we were dealing with, right, on the one hand, it's the origins of patriarchy. But on the other hand, really what we were talking about are the social transformations that occur as human beings go from hunter-gatherers into horticulture societies, into societies with plow agriculture. That's the main thing I wanted you to be able to get out of that. The transformations that are occurring to societies as humans go from the Paleolithic period to the Neolithic period, through the Mesolithic period, and then into the Neolithic period. And there are many different kinds of social transformations that are occurring. The social transformation that we focused on was relationships between men and women. How do the relationships between men and women change as you go from a Paleolithic society based basically on hunting and gathering to a Mesolithic society based on more or less horticulture into a Neolithic society with plow agriculture? How does that change the relationships between men and women? If you got that out of the last discussion, then everything is great. That was where things were intended to go. So our discussion boards are going to seem maybe a little muddled, because really what I'm asking to do is for y'all to toss your ideas out concerning the discussions. I'll come in and try to give you some brief conclusions, but I don't have a set spot where I'm trying to get you to go. I'm trying to get you to think about history. I'm trying to get you to think about these historical documents, the stages of history that y'all dealt with last week. That's another important conceptual issue. How do historians divvy up time, and how do we think about how we move from one period to the next? Anyway, I realize this was a little bit jumbled here, but I wanted to just kind of shoot this quickly on the fly and get something out to you. Right now, currently, those of y'all whose last names begin with question mark through Z, the last end of the alphabet, y'all should be talking about the urban revolution and the creation of urban societies. Everybody should already have their initial posting up, that Tuesday posting. That Tuesday posting is there to help get the conversation started. Now, between now and Saturday, you have to develop that conversation in such a way that you feel like all the documents are covered. Now, keep in mind, the thing that you were doing for this week is that outside of the videos, use the videos to set up the context. But outside of the videos, you got that Kevin Riley document looking at the attraction of the civilized life and what kind of social changes occur as we move into urban settings. And he sets up the comparison between ancient Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt. Pay attention to his environmental angles. He makes some arguments that the environments of the two different regions affect the way that the societies are actually created. Then, the rest of the chapter are primary sources, either from ancient Mesopotamia or from ancient Egypt, giving us looks at what life was like in the first cities. So keep that in mind. The conceptual issue for the new chapter is to be looking at distinguishing between secondary sources and primary sources. And how do historians look at a primary source and read into it? For example, what does that Epic of Gilgamesh tell us about what was life like in the first cities? That's what you're supposed to be thinking of as you go through this. And then we get to the end, to the last document there, looking at South America and really questioning what historians think they know about ancient South American civilizations. So anyway, this video is just a short attempt to guide us, out of one discussion, move us into the next discussion, and maybe help you feel a little bit more connected to the class because you actually see a face. As usual, y'all feel free, send me an email. If you have questions about the class, drop by my office during my office hours. I have tried to make it a habit of sending an email out to all of you, letting you know when I was in the office, and you could give me a phone call if you need to. In fact, my phone's flashing right now. Maybe that's someone calling me right now. Email me, give me a phone call, drop by the office. Let's make sure we are all, plugged into the process here and enjoy learning some history.